Welcome to the Savvy Shopkeeper Retail Podcast. I'm your host, Kathy Cruz. I'm a former brick and mortar store owner turned retail expert who is passionate about entrepreneurship and has experienced the highs and lows of running a retail business. Whether you're a seasoned retail veteran or an aspiring store owner, consider me your guide on this store owning journey. If you're looking to run a profitable and growing business that doesn't drain you, follow my 6 stages of shopkeeping and subscribe to this show. Join me for a journey of continuous learning where protecting your mind, maximizing profit, and determining your own schedule are a priority. Get ready to work smarter, profit more, and grow your retail business. Welcome to episode 229 of the Savvy Shopkeeper Retail Podcast, Building a Legacy Business with Jolene Forrester of JoRetro. I'm your host, Kathy Cruz. So today I have another Shopkeeper Stories episode for you. It is with Jolene, who's a Master Shopkeepers member, and I genuinely feel like she's building a legacy business. And a legacy business is a long-standing independent business that contributes to the character of its community. She'll share a lot more on this during the interview. And I have more to say on the type of business that she's building, but I'm saving that for a future episode. She doesn't even know it's coming. I honestly believe, if I had to guess, that Jolene in her small community, I think it's pretty small. I haven't been to it yet, although I am going to visit soon. She probably has the biggest, most profitable independent store in her area. And that says a lot, especially as an independent retailer. And if we continue on the topic of legacy, she's also doing this in terms of her family because she started the business with her sister in a booth. It's named after their dad. You're going to hear all about this during the interview. And then her son is part of the business. Before Jolene joined Master Shopkeepers 5 years ago, she had just moved from 1,600 square feet to 4,000 square feet. And she actually said after we pressed end or stop on the interview, she said that she was stuck before she joined us. And she said that Master Shopkeepers made her braver and less scared. It just made the whole journey less scary. She also said that it made her get more competitive. And I think this is the key thing. It didn't make her competitive with other people in the group. It made her get more competitive with herself. And you're going to learn all the ways that Jolene learned and grew her business, because I believe she grew her business 7 times what it was when she started. There's so much to unpack in this episode. I have a lot of respect for Jolene, who is fearless in some ways. She isn't afraid to take some leaps of faith or some steps and to test things to see if her business could grow. And that's really what got her to where she is now. She should give herself way more credit. Hopefully she does. If you want to see the show notes to this episode or find links to anything we might mention, you'll visit my blog at savvyshopkeeper.com/episode 229. That's savvyshopkeeper.com/episode 229. Here's my interview with Jolene of JoRetro in Maryland. Hi, Jolene. I am so happy to have you here today on the podcast. I'm trying to do some more shopkeeper stories this year, especially with some of the Master Shopkeepers members who have been part of Master Shopkeepers for a long time. And I've gotten to know you and your businesses, and sometimes like your families, or at least the stories about your families and how they're involved. So I'm excited to have you on today because I really want you to share your journey. I know you started your career in interior design and then went into shopkeeping. So could you tell me about that and how you transitioned or why you transitioned?
Thanks, Kathy. I'm really happy to share this with everyone. I'm just so glad to be part of your Master Shopkeeper group. Well, it's been a long journey. I worked many years in corporate interior design, worked for several other retail shops before I got into that. I don't always think about those as being part of my past history because I worked in commercial corporate design for over 30 years. But, as corporations go, they make changes. And I was in charge of interior design and facilities for office space. And eventually, those spaces turned into home offices, and I closed offices across the United States. But fortunately for me, before that, I had started a little part time business with my sister in an antique mall. And that transitioned into full time after I was let go from that job.
What year was that? I didn't know. See, I always learn something new or lots of new things when I interview group members. What year was that with the antique mall and the booth in there with your sister?
Well, in 2009, my sister moved in with me for a little while, and which was just wonderful to get to know her better as an adult. We had a large collection of items after my our father passed away. We were kind of fascinated by antique booths and always thought that we could maybe do a better job than what we saw when we traveled around and shopped. We both collected different things. And so we had probably over 50 boxes of beer memorabilia, and we started looking for a place to sell that. And fortunately, there was a space in our hometown in Havre de Grace, Maryland. And he had just moved to a larger building and had space, and we took it right away. So the two of us worked on that together, and that was in 2009. We were in that mall for 4.5 years. She moved back to Florida, and I kept doing it. My husband wondered why I was still doing that and working full time, but I just really loved it. After I was actually, before I was let go, I was offered a larger space across the street with the same owner. And I took that. And that's when my son came on part time during college and helped with that. So I was flying back and forth to different locations, closing offices, and doing all these things during the week. And then on the weekends, I would work at the shop. And that was a very long couple of years,
Yeah.
and until I was let go. And then we worked on expanding that location together, my son and I. And eventually, I hired a part-time person to help. So after 4.5 years at that location up the street from where I am now, we just really outgrew that space and decided to move to a much larger location down on the central part of town.
Is that where you are now?
Yes, and it's a little over 5,000 square feet. And it was a little scary to take on that much. We were in about 1,600 square feet before, but we
Okay.
knew something had to change because we really were not making enough money in a smaller location to support even just the two of us for a salary.
And if we go back to the antique booth, the booth in the antique mall or whatever the location
Mhm.
was that JoRetro? Was that the same name or did that evolve? How did that come about? How did the name come?
Actually, from the very beginning, we had picked that name. My dad's name was Joseph, and he was always collecting things through our whole childhood. We thrifted and went to little shops everywhere, and so that was part of us just growing up, picking through things at the dump in town. And my dad we always said he liked things that were free. So he,
Sounds like
that
my
was what
mom.
he yeah, that's what he liked to do. But so I think we got that from him, and we just came up with the name JoRetro. And from the very beginning, we started to brand our things. So at first, we just used little cards and things and upcycled stuff. And eventually, we started having business cards printed, and they were folded. And inside, we wrote the description and the price. So that was really pretty early on, maybe about the same time we started Facebook. It might have been 2010.
Okay, I didn't realize. I thought JoRetro, it was named after you. I didn't realize it was after your
Well,
dad.
well, because of the spelling being more, J-O instead of J-O-E, but we get that spelling too sometimes on social media where people are sharing us. And I don't correct people. And I always joke that Luke's middle name is Joseph too. So, we're kind of passing it down through the family
No, I
that way.
love that. So I know, I think you joined Master Shopkeepers when you were still or towards the tail end of being in that 1,600 square foot space.
Actually, we had only been in our new space about a year.
Okay.
And I want to say it was right at the beginning of 2019. I feel like it was right around then. I had shoulder surgery and I was home, which is unusual for several weeks. And I binged on all your podcasts and just really loved them, found the group and joined. And I've just been just in love with the whole group and the members since then. It's a great place to check in and see what everyone else is doing. And as you know, I've never been to a market to buy
Right.
product. And I've just gotten so much information from the other members who are all across the country on what sells well for them. And that's really helped me as I've transitioned from almost 100% vintage into retro items.
Yeah, I would love to talk about that because that's really the part of the journey that I've seen for you. For some reason, I thought you were still in the smaller location, but you had already moved. But what I've seen, and I hope you don't mind me sharing this, like I won't share numbers, but I will say like I've seen your business 7x, I feel like in the time that you've been in Master Shopkeepers with us. And it's pretty incredible to see what you're doing. And I have other parts of your business, I joked that you're building a moat. So we're going to talk about that in a minute. But let's just stay focused on the retail business for now, because there are other parts of Jolene's whole entire business model that are really, really cool. So when you joined Master Shopkeepers, you were 100% vintage. And then
Pretty much.
I remember you saying in the group, you're like, listen, I've brought in a variety of other items into my store because I've learned from everyone in the group. What I love about you is that you've really stayed true to the style of the brand, the retro theme, and you do it so well. So, what were like some of the first items that you started to bring in that weren't vintage?
Probably one of the very first things was Swedish dishcloths. They were really having a moment back then. We had just launched our website right at the beginning of COVID. So we were smart about that. We had that ready. And we realized very quickly that we didn't have the time to add all the vintage items because you have one of each thing, but we could buy and sell retro brand things. And we do have sort of a mid-century modern style to the shop. And that was probably one of the first things that we started selling. And we always had Pyrex themed items that were because we sell so much vintage Pyrex, and that's kind of been our focus since we were in the booth, even. We really sought that out. But little by little, people shared we researched candles during COVID. I brought in like one of every scent of one brand and loved it. And we eliminated certain things. And we have been selling that since 2020. So when we find a brand we like and our customers like, we just continue to order, the soaps, candles, other things. We found there just really wasn't very many gift shops in our little town. And we could pick up what was missing, some of the stationery and those products.
And I want to mention the Pyrex because that's a core part of your brand. So you said that was a real big part of your business from the beginning. And if you follow Jolene on Instagram or TikTok, you're on TikTok too, like you'll see her whole entire display of Pyrex, and it's a pretty big collection. I bought Pyrex from you. You shipped a really nice order to me because my sister collects Pyrex, and I bought this beautiful set of three mixing bowls with the dot pattern. She
Mhm.
loves it. She loves it. So, how much has that grown for you? Because I feel like people come to you now to sell you Pyrex. Like they know you're the Pyrex person.
Well, yeah, years ago when Facebook groups started, I joined a Mid-Atlantic Pyrex group, and we would all get together for swaps a couple times a year and sell to each other. And eventually, we all pretty much had what we wanted, but we found that we wanted to sell to outside people. And I had the store, it made sense to do a festival. So we started very small at the old store, just with like 8 vendors. And somehow it ended up being twice a year because people loved it so much that once wasn't enough. So in April and September, we put it on. We've been doing it over 8 years now. And we have a little more than 50 vendors usually that participate. We close a couple blocks in town. It really benefits a lot of other merchants and the restaurants, and it's a fun event. And
Yeah,
when
it's
it's we sell more than just Pyrex, that's why we call it Pyrex and Vintage.
yeah, because all the vendors are also selling vintage. Do they sell new things too that are vintage or retro inspired?
There's a little bit of Pyrex themed items, but we try to keep it authentic vintage. It's definitely not a craft show by any means. We have a little bit of food. We even have a vendor that does cookies that are decorated with Pyrex designs, and she does really well. It's and the vendor up the street, she puts our designs. Each festival we have a different design, and she puts those on her macaroons, and that's fun too.
This episode is brought to you by my new free resource, Valuable Data to Collect for Your Brick and Mortar Store. One of the questions I hear most often is, how is my business making money, but I'm not making money? I ran a profitable brick and mortar business from day one, and the reason why is because I used data to make decisions. In my new free guide, I'm sharing all the systems that I would set up and the data I would collect if I were to start a store from scratch again. Whether you're preparing to open or you've been open for years, it's never too late to start tracking. Visit savvyshopkeeper.com/data to get the guide. Yeah, and this is part of the moat that I was referring to. So you host this big Pyrex Fest. I mean, how many people come in for Pyrex Fest?
A couple thousand, I think, at this point, and they do travel. We have the really diehard Pyrex fans that travel from all over the country. They'll fly in. We've had one collector that comes from Dallas, and he's been
Wow.
3 times, and he's coming again this next fest. So that's exciting because a lot of people they see each other online during the year, and then to come together and actually meet each other is fun. So we do a meet
So
and greet the night before the fest now too.
yeah, I mean, I'm traveling there in September with my sister. It was her combo birthday Christmas gift. She's so excited. So we'll be there for the September event. We're really looking forward to it. I want to check it out. And that kind of leads me to the other part of your business. So you've taken apartments in the building where your store is at above the store, and you've converted them into themed retro Airbnbs. We rented one of them, so I'm excited about that too. Because now I get to check out the one of the retro Airbnbs. I get to visit your store and I get to check out Pyrex Fest. So tell me about the Airbnbs and what had you do that?
Well, in 2020, during COVID, a lot of people got grants and things to help them with their business. And so we did lay off our employees temporarily for that. And we did get the PPP to help with that. I just felt like I had some extra time during that period. My son had an apartment upstairs, and the apartment next to him opened up. And I'd always dabbled with the idea. Being an interior designer, I kind of missed being able to decorate spaces, offices. I had some creativity there, but you always can do more in a home. So my son convinced me that we should try it. And so we took a 2-bedroom apartment, and the contractor who did my build out for the shop, he's really great. And he did the project for me. After a few months, it was ready. And during that period, I watched a lot of YouTube videos of what it would be like to be a host and what to expect, and tried to educate myself on that. It's just like a lot of things, you just got to jump in and start doing it. And if you make a mistake, you fix it. And we just had really great visitors. It's fun to be a host and show off my hometown. And that's part of my mission, is to bring people to Havre de Grace, have them enjoy the city, visit the other restaurants and merchants, and have a really vibrant downtown.
Yeah, I love that about watching your journey too, is seeing how much you do advocate for people to come and visit the town and shop, and how you're kind of turning your business into a way to get other people to come visit and check everything out. So you touched on design. Like I see when I look at videos of your store, I see your ta design talent come into play. Do you credit the way your store is merchandised and the way you display things to some of your design background?
I'm sure it has something to do with that. I never really worked in a retail store where I was able to merchandise, so I don't have any formal training there. I just like things to look good. And then again, I educate myself. I listen to a lot of podcasts about retail design, and having the vintage items to stage with, I think helps with making things more interesting than just all new display pieces.
Yeah, and that kind of leads me to my other question that I had. Do you prefer sourcing vintage, Pyrex, or new merchandise for your store? I think I've always wanted to ask you this.
Well, I love the vintage. I love the Pyrex. I never get tired of that and searching for it and going to people's homes, or having them come in and bring things. The new retro items, though, that's a whole different level of fun because you get to shop and it comes in and it's ready to go out. You don't have to clean it and research it. So, but if I had to pick, probably I enjoy buying the Pyrex the most, or other vintage items.
Yeah.
But to support a store as large as ours, it really wasn't practical in the beginning, to try to fill it with vintage. We were just kind of drowning. We just couldn't make enough money. A lot of people visit antique malls. They like to look, and that's kind of what we were like, an antique mall. Only I wanted to be better than that. I wanted to be more curated with things grouped together. And I liked getting a lot of one type thing, like the Pyrex, where we have a wall that's 30-foot long that's full of it. But it's difficult to generate enough income to support the number of employees you need in a shop this large. So you talk a lot about having an aha moment, which I did when you were talking about square footage and what you should make per square foot. And when I did that exercise, I'm kind of a competitive person, and I was shocked our number was so low. I was like, I must have done this wrong. It can't be right. It just can't be right. And I did it again. I'm like, even factoring in the back rooms and the walkways and all of that, our number was really pretty low. It started me thinking about, well, why, what is sitting too long in my shop? What are people, I might like buying vintage baby clothes, but do I ever really sell very much? And so I started little by little looking at areas and changing those and buying new retro brand things that really did sell well. And it's actually, things turned around pretty quickly, I would think. And within 2 years, our income really soared.
I have to say, I so enjoy watching your journeys. And I think because you you're very open and share in the group, and you'll even share numbers. And I don't know if I realized that it was the SPSF information that got you to turn things around. But I do remember you would just gradually comment in the group and you're like, now I'm doing this and now I've grown this much and now I'm trying this. So I appreciate that you realize, I mean, as entrepreneurs, we have to experiment, like we have to put on it's like we're scientists and we put on a lab coat. I thought about this recently, and you're like, I'm going to put on this lab coat and I'm going to test and try all the things. And you did, you're constantly testing categories, product lines, the way you display things, and you go in all in on what's working, and you're willing to say, okay, this isn't working, we're done with that. I remember you mentioned that about several categories in your store. You're like, I tried this category or I tried this line, it doesn't work. We're discounting, we're getting rid of it, and we're bringing something else in to test. And every time you tested, you found what worked and you found what didn't, and you would move forward. So I have such an appreciation for that trait in you where you just weren't afraid to try. How big is your team now?
We fluctuate between 10 and 8 right now. Uh, we have a couple of part-time people and some high school employees that work on the weekends, which is something new that we're trying. And my son works full time. So I really work more hours than I probably should. But whenever you're trying something new or you're launching something new, it's like starting over. So you do have to put the extra hours in to get that going. just like when we added the retro clothing, that was a big category and a big expense that we weren't sure, could we do well with clothes from extra small to 4X? And it really has been eye-opening how much we do sell in that department now. It's actually taken over and been higher than our Pyrex sales.
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah, so that I mean, then that was something customers asked for because vintage clothing is so small and you only have one of each type of thing. So it's hard to meet a need when people want to dress 50s or 60s style or just a classic cut of a dress. We're able to provide that.
Yeah, I didn't realize that that outpaced your Pyrex category. And I feel like you just started doing retro clothing, the vintage clothing. Was it 2 years ago? 2 or 3 years ago?
I remember we got it in the winter of 2020, I think.
Okay.
And we just started buying a few brands on Fair, and actually I had looked before that, and I feel like they just didn't have anything to offer. And then eventually I would always type in retro or vintage or mid-century and see what would come up, because I wasn't attending markets, or a customer might mention a brand they liked and then I would research it. And then eventually we had some reps that would come in and show us lines for each spring and fall. And we've ordered that way. And, sometimes we try certain clothes and they don't do well. I mean, clothing is really a kind of a hard thing to know what sizes people will wear. You're always learning. And I think it would be really hard if you weren't narrowed in like we are and narrowed down to the 50, 60 style. But if I was just trying to buy for what I thought was going to be popular next winter, that I think that would be hard for me.
Yeah. This episode is brought to you by my new free resource, a ChatGPT guide for retailers. There is no other tool that has saved me as much time in 2024 as ChatGPT has. My new guide will help you learn about this free artificial intelligence tool. Yes, it's free, and it's not as intimidating as it sounds. I share 14 ways retailers are using the tool now to save them time and effort. I also share real store owner examples, and the results from one search will blow your mind. Visit savvyshopkeeper.com/chatgpt to sign up for this free guide. So I love that you mentioned like working hard in like seasons because you said like when you're getting ready to launch something and now you have 3 Airbnbs,
No, we
right?
have four.
You have four. Oh my gosh. Okay. See, I can't
Yeah.
even keep up with you. You have 4 Airbnbs. You host Pyrex Fest twice a year. You have the store that obviously is open all year long with a 10-person team. I know you joked. I think you said someone in your family says like it's not Jolene if you're not doing something new. So
That's my sister. Yeah.
I thought it was your sister.
I always have to have
So
a project.
yeah. Do you have any new projects coming up in the works that I don't know about?
Well, I think you know about this because I just shared it in the group. I just launched our wholesale site on Fair for JoRetro. And it's comprised right now, because you've got to start somewhere, right? All of the designs from our past Pyrex Fest, and we had 12 different designs. We've been selling them for a long time in the shop, magnets, stickers, tote bags, towels, things like that. So we decided, could we source that to be able to wholesale? And that's a whole different way of buying because you have to have a price that you can then wholesale. And the group was great to help me with that. I'm actually using the towel vendor that someone in the group recommended. So it's just such a source of information to be in Master Shopkeepers. And so we just launched that. I got my first order yesterday. So
Was
it's
it another
exciting.
Master Shopkeepers member?
No, no,
Oh,
I don't even know how they found us.
that's amazing.
I don't think it is. I didn't recognize it, but I think they're in a booth. I think they're in an antique booth, which is a good fit for what I'm
Yes.
selling.
Yes.
If you, because it's all Pyrex themed at this point, and a nice addition to a small booth to generate some sales. Because that's what I tell people. Most antique malls will allow you to have some new product, and that will help your sales
Yeah.
rather than just having all vintage.
And what is the name on Fair? Because you're selling wholesale on Fair with this retro theme. Definitely Pyrex is the strong part of the brand. What is the name on Fair?
JoRetro. It's the same. Yeah.
All right.
I try to
So,
keep it easy. Yeah. We're JoRetro everywhere.
I mean, if you can't tell, this is another thing that I really appreciate about you is like sometimes we tell ourselves that we can't niche down, right? Like we have to serve everyone for everything. And you're a really good example of niching. Like you know your style, you know it's retro vintage, it's very particular. I could scroll through on Facebook or Instagram or whatever it is I'm scrolling and immediately know if it's something that you posted. And you do it really well, and you're building or have built an empire around it. So I give you so much credit because some
Oh,
people will
thanks,
say,
Kathy.
well, I can barely run a store, right? Like, what do you mean you can do all of these other things? And you have built a bit of an empire around this brand.
But it's little by little, Kathy. It's we started in an antique booth, and I would just go on Sundays with 6 boxes of items, and then I'd come home with 5 boxes, and we hardly made any money, but it's like social media. You just keep posting and you keep showing up, and you are serving your customers. Sometimes you don't even realize it. I have people that will stop in that have been following me for years on Instagram because they just happen to be on the East Coast. And that is just so exciting to actually meet people that appreciate the shop and what we sell.
Yeah. I mean, you got us, you got me, because now I'm driving 8 hours to get to your shop. So, like, it's spreading out across the US. You have people coming in from Texas and all over the place. So, I would say for sure, if you're a vintage Pyrex retro lover, you definitely want to check out Jolene and everything that she's doing. So, let's just start to wrap this up. I'm curious, like, is there anything else about Master Shopkeepers? Like I know you mentioned like the community and asking questions. Anything else about Master Shopkeepers that's helped you along the way?
I think, the community is probably the biggest thing. You can have a really stressful day or need an answer to something. You can go to the group, you can type in what you're looking for and see past posts, the classes, just pushing us to want to, pay ourselves. And you can do that. You really need to do that. And I was guilty of not doing that for many years, and just because I had a full-time job. But when you have to rely on that, it might be fine in the beginning to get yourself started, and you reinvest in your business in better displays, more product. And that has really helped our sales. And that was another class that you taught, was, how much do you have in inventory and what can you expect to make from that? And if you want to grow your sales, your inventory needs to grow too. So there's just so many things about the group.
I
Um,
remember that class, and I think I remember you commenting, you're like, "Whoa, I am overstocked right now." But like this is the thing about you is like you attend the class, you learn the piece of information, you do the formula, and but you quickly implement. Like you don't hold on to things. You don't dig your heels in the sand. You're like, "Okay, I have this bit of information. I learned from it. What am I going to do about it?" So that takes a
well,
lot. So many of us who could be stubborn.
that's what's so important, is there really isn't a lot of information out there. And the Master Shopkeeper group gives you that formula, the amount. Like, I didn't know, I never ran a retail store. I might have worked in one, but I didn't have the experience to know what I should have been making in a 5,000 square foot building. And I thought, well, here I'm in this great location. I have good foot traffic. I have all the space. Well, I'm doing something wrong if my numbers are not where they should be in the average. And how would I have known that if you hadn't shared that in the group? You can't find those things when you go just searching. So all of that information that you find and share with the group, it really does help you grow your business and know if you're lacking in some area.
And what I like, I mean, I obviously I'm there to lead and to share the information and to share the formulas, but what I appreciate just as much is the willingness of other group members to share so that you can see what other people are doing. If you think about it, I could have shared the formula and taught it, But if you didn't have the information from all the other group members sharing their results or what their number was, you may not have realized, okay, I have room for improvement here. So it's also what everyone else is willing to share, their willingness to be vulnerable so that you can all learn from each other. Is there anything else that you want to share about your business, about JoRetro that you think is important that I haven't shared? Before you answer that question, I just want to talk about Jolene's storage room. I'm going to have to take a screenshot of this before we end this call. Her storage room, I always talk about it. It is so incredibly organized. I will share this in the show notes because it's impressive.
Well, this was my office, Kathy, and we little by little ordered shelving. I mean, there was none of this. It was just a beautiful office for me, right? And now it's lined every wall with shelving because we found that with new items, you don't want to run out of something that's great. And if there's a special, you want to get it. So you've got to be able to store it. And there's been lots of pictures shared in the group of really great storage rooms. So that competitive edge, I had to try to make ours look good.
I see what motivates you, Jolene. Now I get it. Now I get
Yeah.
it. Well, how can everyone follow you, visit your website, shop with you, attend Pyrex Fest? Like, what's the best place for everyone to learn about you and your brand?
Well, we have a website. It's JoRetro.com, and you can link to everything from there. We do have a separate Facebook page for the Pyrex Fest. It's called Pyrex and Vintage Fest. It's branded the same with our atomic logo. So you'll know you're on the right page. And then we're on Facebook and Instagram and TikTok, all as JoRetro or JoRetro Vintage Market. We do go by that sometimes too.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you for
Thanks,
sharing
Kathy.
your journey and all the things that you've learned in Master Shopkeepers and about your brand. I can't say it enough. Like I just genuinely have enjoyed watching the journey. I think it was the growth, the willingness to test, the seeing that you have value and that you should pay yourself and that your team can grow and this business can grow, all the things. It's just been so fun to watch.
It's really been an incredible journey, and I really have to give you a lot of credit for everything that you've done to help me on that journey. Thank you.